are watching the KeithAndrewNetwork. Network. Why are we all dressed up? That's for us to know and you to find out. You are watching episode 552. That's 552. And answer the question, why are we all dressed up? The whole month of October, that's right, the whole entire month of October is KeithAndrewNetwork Network presents the Halloween theme. Or Halloween, whatever you want to call it. I call it Halloween. People call it Halloween. It's the same thing. You're only replacing the E with the A. So, it's a Halloween theme. You get every guest to be on my show. Guests to dress up, express themselves. They can dress up, dress down, whatever the hell they want. It's freedom of speech, self-expression, and you're supporting a good cause and making a new friend out of it. For people who want to know, I am not a Muslim. I am a pirate. See? I even have a sword to prove it. Even though it does look like, a lot of people say gangbanger, but, I had a red shirt. I don't have an eye patch, so I wanted to look like a pirate. So, yeah, this is my middle class, poor version of a pirate. But the whole point of my talk show is to show people that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities that never give up and prove people wrong. Prove to them that labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be. It's prove to them you can still amount to something. So hashtag break the labels. Sorry, gets my breath. That being said, it's uncensored, freedom of speech, self-expression. Say anything you want, talk about whatever you like. And starting off, what can you tell us about yourself? Who you dressed up to be?
Well, thank you, Keith. And I don't know if you said my name's Elaine Williams. And the tag that you just said is what got me to come do this interview. I was very inspired by your mission and who you are, and you were just so great and humble but persistent on the phone. And I thought, wow, this guy is a power of example for me, So I just really applaud you for what you're doing. I'm a motivational speaker, I'm a performance coach, and a stand-up comedian, and so I've written 3 books. And I write comedy, and I help people craft their stories, their brand stories, and I help people get confident on camera and on stage. And I think that we all have a version of a disability. Just some of us have it inside. We all have blocks, And one of my missions is to make things more inclusive. Growing up in a very dysfunctional alcoholic home, I felt excluded and like the black sheep a lot. And so I always have tried to go out of my way to include people and invite everybody, which sometimes can backfire, but that's one of my missions. I feel like the human condition is we want to belong, but sometimes we don't feel like we belong. And, that's why a lot of people have a fear of speaking, because if you stand boldly and speak your truth, you might get kicked out of the tribe. And if you get kicked out of the tribe, you could die, And so I think that's why a lot of people have this sort of unfounded fear. So what are you doing over there?
Oh, I was looking at my reflection, and I just noticed there's a big space, and you couldn't see one of my ornaments. Just going to close the space.
Oh, okay.
ADD on my part.
Okay, cool. So, anyway, so that's a little bit about me, and I just love your mission that you can do whatever, there's so much potential if we can get out of our own way. And I find that I'm constantly saying that, a version of that to my clients and myself, So I would love to know more about you too. After, I guess I'll tell a little bit more about me. One thing that inspired me to connect with you, Keith Andrew, was I had a very close relative who had a learning disability, and this was back in the 70s. And before internet, before cell phones, we have so much information at our fingertips. In fact, I was I was driving into New York City last night with some friends to go to this really cool seminar, and we were all talking about before there were Google Maps, like what we had to do. Like when I first moved to New Jersey in 2004, I didn't know New Jersey. I'm from Texas. I lived in Manhattan for 4.5 years, and all of a sudden I'm in New Jersey. I got lost constantly. I'd be at Home Depot and I'd be like, which way is home? Like it was so confusing to me. And there were these like map books and then, and then we had sort of GPSs, and now we have so much more. But like at the time it was so confusing, and we were laughing at how we would have to print out maps, and, and people don't realize how much information we have like this all the time. But back in the 70s, people didn't know about learning disabilities. People didn't know, and they didn't understand that if you put a kid in a slow class, that can be like, doom for them. That can really affect how they think about themselves, and that can be a self-fulfilling prophecy, or sometimes, like, one of my friends from Al-Anon told me this story that her teacher asked her a question, and she stood up and said the right answer, but her teacher misheard her and didn't like her and had her put in a slow class. And so she got labeled slow, and she wasn't even allowed to go to college. Like, it was like this snowball effect from this one teacher. And she's brilliant. Like, she's one of the smartest people I know. And so I'm going to take this off. Anyway, it to me, that's such a horrific example of, education gone awry. And, I don't think many teachers consciously say, oh, I'm really going to try to screw up some lives today. I don't think parents go, haha, I'm really going to put my kid in therapy. Like nobody consciously, very few people, there are a few people, but most people are trying to do their best with what they have, right? With limited resources and limited knowledge and limited capacity. And so, my stepmother would make a big deal about this person. I'm just trying to respect their privacy. And she'd make this big deal about, like, you're smart. You just have a learning disability. Like, she made such a big deal about it. I think she made it worse. I know she made it worse, and we were always, and she would have to go advocate for the kid. And, I'm sure it was traumatizing for him. I'm sure. And thank God we know more about it, but I'm sure we have learned more to go, right? And there's different levels and different distinctions. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you can tell us towards the end. But I just love it that you're helping raise awareness. And, I mean, there's not one adult I don't know who's not dealing with a kid with needs or something, or an elderly parent who's going through something, or some other health thing. I mean, it's, I'm in the 12-step world in recovery, and they have a saying that, like, normal is really just a cycle on the washing machine. And I love that, because what is normal, and who wants to be normal, and who cares? And, so many times I think we have all these judgments, and really we're taking our judgments and we're projecting them onto society. And sometimes it's our own stuff, worried they are going to think something. Well, who the heck is they, right? Like, so it's just interesting. So I love that. Yeah, break the labels. And, I came to New York City when I was 32, and I had people tell me I was too old to try to break into acting here. I mean, I performed my whole life in Texas, and I worked, I've worked off and on as a performer my whole life. So I try to bring that when I coach people. So, do you have any questions for me, Keith? Andrew?
No, I was looking at my reflection. I was fixing my shirt because it looks like I'm fat, but I'm just trying to hide it. But I'm not fat. I have a fat neck, but I'm not fat.
No, you're not fat, honey.
But you mentioned a couple of things I do want to talk to you about. And you asked me some questions, and I'm more than happy to answer. But this isn't about me, so I wait till you actually ask the question that I can answer. But I like to keep the focus on you.
Okay.
But, people like to know what's the deal with the stuff in the background. As I mentioned when we got started, I wanted to do something different for the past 5.5 years. This might be second time I did something like a Halloween theme, but I didn't make it an ongoing thing of like, oh, it's Halloween, let's do something on that day. So now all the interviews will be Halloween based. Now, the next question I was going to ask you, but I saw that was really interesting, it was, you are a storyteller. Hands down, I would want, I can speak, for my disability when I'm nervous. I want to hire you to write my book. A lot of people are like, oh, you should write your own book. The problem is, I get like a page or two, maybe a chapter if I'm lucky, and then I'm like, now what? Because I wrote a book before. It was called When You Overcome Controversy, Dreams Do Come True, Even If You Have a Learning Disability. And now, from a pirate, I'm now a movie star. I think this is a better look for me. But it was me just basically bitching about my life. Oh, this is what I did when I was in first grade. This is what I did in second grade. And it's kind of like, I need to hire a storyteller. I want someone to tell a story. You know, I started to write it when I was in the dentist's office waiting for my dad to come out. I started to write it, and I got like chapter 1. Then I hit a roadblock. Okay, chapter 2, why I got started. You know, it all started with a birthday wish. And I used my dad for an inspiration. I used my brother for an inspiration. And then I'm like, okay. Or I got tired with the conversation. But it all started with the birthday wish. And after chapter 2, I'm like, I don't know what else to write about.
Yeah, that's great. That's a really great point, Keith, because most people it's hard to write your own story. Like, I have a joke that writing your own story is kind of like cutting the back of your hair. Like, you can do it, but you're going to have to pay somebody to fix it. Which cracks me up. But it's hard to see yourself. In fact, I was just getting help from a mentor yesterday about tweaking my website, CaptivateTheCrowd.com, because you know, I help people with their story, help them get confident on camera, and I help them if they want to be funnier. I do a lot of different things, but I'm really clear. My website isn't as clear as it could be. But it's hard when it's your own thing, right? And so, yeah, and that's, I would love to talk to you about that, because I love pulling stories out of people. And what I find fascinating is most people have an amazing story, and they often are like, they don't realize it. You know, like one of my students, Teresa, she was like, well, I'm this organizer, and I helped 3 generations of people after Hurricane Katrina live in a small apartment. And like, that's how she sort of birthed her business. And to me, that's a fascinating story. That comes from a place of pain and recovery and survival and all kinds of things, versus like, well, maybe I'll be an organizer, you know, like I'm always fascinated by like, what's the catalyst, you know? And sometimes it's always hard to see your own stuff. And Teresa had that story, but she also had another one where she was like, well, I had cancer when I was 14, but then we did this and this, and I just have a scar, and I was like, oh my God, like, wait, you know, like that could have really affected you. And she is just so strong. So I think sometimes, most of the time, people don't realize how powerful the stories that they're not telling are, and the gems that are there. And so that's one of the things, that's one of my superpowers, is to like pull out stories and be like, oh my God, wait, let's back up, you know, because you can't see it when it's yours. So we'll definitely talk offline. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you have your talk show thing, you're working, you got a lot going on.
It is. I just want to get my life started.
It sounds like you already have, honey.
And to be honest with you, this is what, I'm not saying this to be cute or funny. I want to do this until the day I die, because I'm very passionate about being an entertainer. I can make complete utter strangers laugh, but my own family, it's kind of like...
Well, yeah. That's it. It's always hard. When I first started doing comedy, my boyfriend hated it, and he would say things like, well, she's really funny. Well, that's really funny. And it was just like, what am I, chopped liver? It's the people you're closest to, it's hard. It's hard.
I agree. Now, the next question I was going to ask you is, who influenced you to become a motivational speaker?
That's a great question. So I've been performing my whole life. Tap, jazz, ballet, singing, dancing, acting, commercials, voiceover, theater, movies. And I moved to New York to pursue musical theater, and then I fell into stand-up comedy. And I had this agent who had just started a college agency. And she said, Elaine, I need a female on my roster. And so I was like, yay! And they were like, you're not ready with comedy. Like, it's really fierce competition. You'd be performing and competing against people who've been doing comedy for 20 years, and I had only been doing it for a few years at the time. But then they said, didn't you have all those addictions? So I came in as the funny eating disorder girl. And I came at it from like an emotional approach, because everybody knows how to lose weight. You eat less, you exercise more. Like we learned that in 7th grade, but that is not the issue. Like, to me, that's an example of how knowledge is not enough. You've got to have an experiential shift. You've got to have an emotional shift. You've got to have something else along with that, right? And so I talked about the emotional aspect of why we eat when we're not hungry. Anyway, and they were like, oh my God, no one's ever talked about this before on the college circuit, blah, blah, blah. So I came in as the eating disorder girl, and I used humor to keep people awake and alive and fun, because who wants to talk about that, right? And then my agent was like, well, can you talk about drug and alcohol? And I was like, yeah, because it was all part of my story. And then she asked me if I would talk about assault. And I was like, let me think about that. And I prayed on it and I meditated because, it's a very heavy topic. There was a lot of stuff that happened to me as a preteen and then my freshman year in college. But after some thought, I thought, you know what, if I can save one person from having to go through this, yeah. And so I dedicated every dime that I made from my college speaking, I put it back into my business. And I wrote another book, I did another website, I did all this stuff, and then my agent left the business. So I've been a little bit like, what am I supposed to do? So that's how I fell into speaking. And I have to say, Keith, like, the travel can be challenging, but when somebody comes up to you and says, you saved my life, you helped me not cut, I've stopped suicide. I've gotten kids back into therapy. I've taken college kids to Al-Anon meetings. I've shown them free podcasts. One woman I checked on, she said, seeing you and hearing your story yesterday was more impactful than 5 years of therapy. So I love using my story for good. And I have to keep being guided about how exactly I'm supposed to do that. But that's how I fell into it.
Well, I got 2 questions for you. First one is, would you be interested in doing a panel at ComicCon? Do you think that with everything you accomplished, that would be your next step? And do you think someone like me would be good enough as well?
Yeah, I think you're very inspiring. You're tenacious, and you have a really cool energy about you. And you really I still don't know you very well, but I think you would be a great speaker, and author. And is Comic-Con where everybody dresses up like comic book characters and stuff?
For the most part, it's favorite. I'll give you an example. trying to think without hurting myself. Some wrestlers go there, sci-fi people, superheroes, but yeah, people go dress up. A lot of artists go there. So there's a lot of different things that go on at Comic-Con. But the reason I asked is I saw at the Hudson Valley Comic-Con in Poughkeepsie. It's coming back this May. And it says we are now looking for people. And I was actually wondering if you would be interested.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to speak there if I guess I could be Wonder Woman. Like, I'm not, I don't know that. I've never been to a Comic-Con. I have lots of friends that have gone. It sounds cool. I'm totally open to it. Are they looking for motivational speakers, or what are they looking for?
Well, I can send you the panel afterwards.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's one thing. One of the things I talk about is power poses and helping, people tap into their confidence. And a lot of that comes from posture, breathing, warming up correctly. So, yeah, I'm open.
Also, while you're on the subject, not to interrupt, I do apologize.
That's okay.
The reason I have this is because it helps me focus more. It helps me open up more. I do want to hire you as motivational coach because I don't have anyone to talk to and motivate me. And that's what you do. You're a motivational speaker. So I would love to work with you if that's a possibility.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I have to tell you, Keith Andrew, I am so grateful. Like, I know my parents did the best they could do. And I have been so blessed. Like, I had crazy stuff happen to me. But then I've always had, like, coaches and people who mentored me or guided me or taught me. And sometimes I was so stuck the other day on Sunday. I was just not in a good place in spite of working out and meditating. And my friend got on the phone with me and we identified what was really going on. And I was like, sometimes mindset is so important. And yet we're not really taught how to, like, deal with it unless you have extraordinary parents or parents who are like yogis or something. And most of us didn't have that, So, yeah, we can talk offline for sure. But, yeah, I love the power of coaching. There's nothing, because we all have blind spots, right? And I think about it, like, anybody who's going to the Olympics, they have lots of coaches. Sports teams, they have lots of coaches. Like, if you want to live your best life and be your most effective and reach your highest potential, why would you not want to have a coach, right? Now, you got to make sure you're finding the right one. Like, I've outgrown some weren't exactly right for me. Some I was intimidated and I wish I'd said, wait, I don't understand. But, we're all on this path. But, yeah, I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, I'm going to ask you 2 hard-hitting questions, and then I'm going to pass it over to you.
Okay.
Vanessa Lina. Adrian Lalo. I'm Cynthia Batts today. I'm Sonia Fisher. This is Shane Smith.
My name is Alexandra Bowie. My name is Amelia Clover.
Hi, I'm Amy Linden.
Hi, I'm Anita Coke Brown.
It's Meg Green.
Hi, my name is Asata Caldwell. Hi, everybody. I'm Brooke Francie.
Hi, I'm Brynford. Hi, I'm Casey Dunn.
Hi, it's Cassandra Kavinsky.
Hi, I'm Christina Frieza.
I'm Cindy Hogan. I'm Courtney Sinello.
Hi, I'm Daisy.
My name is Deborah Jane East.
Hi, my name is Danielle Marcia.
Hi, everyone. I'm Victoria London.
Hi, I'm Heather Crona.
Hi, I'm Heather Callahan Stevens.
Hi, I'm J. Nicole Ralph.
My name is Jamie Petrell.
My name is Turi.
My name is Julia Brankovich.
Kathleen Wills.
Kimberly Amano.
Hi, my name is Laura Putton.
Hi, I'm Laura Chapanis.
Hi, everyone. I'm Melissa Damas.
This is Michelle Mupo, a.k.a. Fuchsia.
I'm Rachel Olivera.
Hi, my name is Sarah Joy Mount.
Hi, I'm Susan Winder.
Hi, everyone. This is Venus Leone.
Hi, I'm Showtana.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Herrera, and I was just on the Keith Andrew Network. It was tons of fun. We used up all our time and then some. I really recommend this show, and try to be a guest on Keith's show. It was super fun.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to 550. That's 550. I'm here as the beautiful and talented Ms. Williams. Now, with the last 9 minutes and 39 seconds counted, I'm going to ask you 2 questions. Actually, make that 3. The first one I'm going to ask you is social media. Can social media make you or break you? And have you ever worked with people with learning, besides me, have you ever worked with people with learning special needs?
I have done some workshops just about like yoga and breathing and mindfulness. And social media can make you or break you, yes. I think that it's very important to remember that even if you're deleting stuff, we don't really know where it goes. And, Google and Facebook are in a huge thing. And so it's kind of cool. They have this huge, they're competing. And so it causes them to keep making innovations, which is exciting. And it's also a little crazy. So I think like anything in life, if you could be strategic about social media, that's one of the most important things. And if you're not in a good frame of mind, if you're tired, angry, lonely, hungry, don't go on there. Like if sometimes we're like in a bad space and then we'll make it worse, right? Oh, let me go on this person's page so I can look at the vacation they went on and they're all skinny and beautiful and, I just try to remember, like, social media, everybody puts, like, their best pictures. Like, nobody puts the fat, frumpy, frizzy days. Nobody puts the days where you're like, right? And so I really try to take everything with a grain of salt. And I personally do not get religious or political. I am, and that's hard. Like, I had a really challenging gig in Montana once, and the school did not treat me well. And I wanted to go, and I kept, like, praying and meditating because I really wanted to post about what this, but it would have been unprofessional. It would have reflected badly on me. So I think one of the most important rules with social media is, to just think about what you're putting out there. And yes, it's good to spend some time and be strategic, but you can also, like, really go down the wormhole, just like the internet. And so I think it's good to time yourself and give yourself certain tasks and then get off. And I've been building my coaching business and speaking, and I've done a lot of different internet things. And I have to say, there's nothing like getting on the phone. People are like, "Oh my God, is that real?" Like, I think a personal touch and connection is what people still really resonate with. And I think that's one reason people are dying for connection. There's so many people who, like, drive to work and they're sitting in their cubicle and they drive home and they sit alone, even if they live with other people. And I think, that we're looking for ways to create community and connection. And that's one reason I love talking about stories and really being authentic, because I think that we have an epidemic of loneliness. And I think that's where a lot of the cyberbullying comes from. And there's a spiritual saying that every single thing is either an expression of love or somebody reaching out for love.
Right.
And that's like, so when somebody's saying something mean or nasty or whatever, they're really begging to be loved. They need love. Not that I condone bullying, but it's this interesting concept, and I'm really working on self-compassion, and I think we all can do a little bit more of that, No,
absolutely. Sorry, that space was really irritating.
Ooh, the colors are changing. Okay, and what was your other question?
Actually, before I do, I just want to fix myself. There's another open space. I was going to say, just to see anything can happen live. I was going to say, it's not 550. I do apologize. It's actually 551.
Oh, okay.
So don't worry, I can always fix that. But hey, anything can happen live. It's a special episode. And the next one is, have you worked with people with special needs? Besides me, obviously.
Yeah, I said that earlier. I've done a meditation, mindfulness, breathing workshop. And then I've performed for all different kinds of people, communities.
All right. Now, the other question I was going to ask you is, what was some of your favorite work you ever wrote about and people ever told you, and passing the show over to you?
Well, when you get an email that says you saved my life, or, hearing your story was better than 5 years of therapy, that is, like, amazing. Or when, because I'm very authentic and vulnerable and I share my story, I've had so many people come up to me afterwards that says, I've never told anybody this before, but. And so just to have people have the experience of being heard and gotten and listened to, that is like such a gift. And so that is, I know that that's one of the reasons I'm here on this planet, and that I can bring love and laughter. I try to do that everywhere I go with everything that I do. I don't always succeed, but that's my intention. And then also I really love, I love working one-on-one with coach and client. It's so sacred for someone to trust you and to show up and be authentic and vulnerable and be like, this is what I'm working towards, and can you help me? And to me, it is like such a special, sacred thing. And then I also really love speaking at orientations. I got to speak at a lot of freshman orientations, and to me, it's so exciting because they're new and they're excited and they're scared. And a lot of times they're tired and wired, and especially when they're our first generation kids who nobody in their family's ever gone to college before, that is like, wow, what an honor. And so I love talking about, how to party safely, how to keep each other safe, how to avoid getting assaulted or getting into trouble, thinking things through. Like I scare them a little bit, and then I try to teach some resourceful tips that and what's fascinating to me is so many people are so worried about getting their kid into school. And I'm like, yeah, but we need to talk about, what happens once they get there. And so many people are like, I can't even deal with that. So it's interesting. It's like a weird paradigm shift that I'm hoping will keep shifting. But I love that. I also love making people laugh, just straight up stand-up comedy. It's a gift. It's fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
So can I ask you a couple of questions?
Sure. I was gonna say we have a minute and 40 seconds counting, but wrapping up the show, I'm gonna pass it over to you for the remaining time.
So I would just love to know, you just seem brilliant, and so you have ADD. Who doesn't?
Among other things.
Yeah, among other things. Okay, well, I love what you're doing, and I think it's really invaluable. You never know who you could inspire. Did you, can you just tell me a little bit about your story? Did you finish high school, or what was your story as far as like the disability?
All right, so I was pretty much, and this is how we're going to wrap up the show. We're now in overtime.
Okay.
All right, so trying to get myself in the mindset. So basically, when I was 4, I was labeled ADD, ADHD, suffer from severe depression, have severe panic attacks. I'm socially awkward. Everyone likes to rub that in my face.
Oh my God, who isn't? Please.
I have a hard time keeping a job. I read and learn at a 5th grade level. I hesitate more than usual, or than a normal person, and I'm on the spectrum of being retarded. And long story short, using my dad for an inspiration, using my brother for an inspiration, using a birthday list, how I got started. What really got me focused was I got sick and tired sitting around the table with everyone and saying, because my brother before me is like, oh, I don't know what to do with my life. I was like, go talk to your sister, go talk to your brother. They know people. And I said, what about me? What about you? You're not educated. You're not qualified. You're not capable of holding down a job. You start problems. You don't shut up. And you read and learn at a 5th grade level. No one's going to hold your hand for the rest of your life. Even sometimes I do feel like that. And I said, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to show you with a learning disability. Actually, I said, fuck it. I said, fuck it. I'm going to show you with a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And unofficially, I did over 800 plus interviews. I give you a quick highlight. When I first started, it was all phone interviews, so I recorded it from the phone. Then I did 72 of those. Then when I did it over, I'm like, I'm still having an anxiety attack. I'm still having panic attacks. This is therapy for myself. This is not working. So how you see your reflection on the camera, that's what the camera picked up. So that was season 1, and well, was season 2. And then season 3 was, here's the camera, what we're doing now, but it's cut in half. You're on the right, and I'm on the left, or I'm on the right, you're... When I get myself worked up, I get tired. Sorry.
That's okay. It's the end of the day, too.
But
wow.
To tell you real fast on the subject, I'm sorry. It's, so I'm on the right, you're on the left, and now it's cut in half. Or we do the interview, we got to flip it. And so you're seeing the process from 2013 all the way up to now, from just doing phone interviews to just recording from the phone to recording from the computer screen to about recording, having the computer do the work, about doing the editing. You see a process for 5.5 years. Now, I'm not doing this for shits and giggles. I want to do this until the day I'm 6 feet under. That's how passionate I am. If I wasn't passionate about this, I would have gave up after I did 300 and have people who are making idle threats to me saying, yeah, my agent said, my publicist said, we don't like the video quality, you ask a lot of stupid questions, we don't want to be seen as people like you, I'm getting death threats from being on your show, you're hurting my career. So now I do a permission form. That was my other big mistake. Because originally I wasn't. I was taking people at their word. So now you have to sign a permission form or I want nothing to do with you. So it's kind of like I'm teaching myself all these things.
It's great, Keith. Andrew, I'm totally inspired by you, and I have a lot of ideas I would like to work with you about. And I think that you have tremendous potential and that you are very smart and educated, and I'm sorry that you got diagnosed with all that stuff, but there's a lot of work around. So I have to run to my next thing, but to be continued for sure. And you are really inspiring, and
Well, before you go, I do have a couple questions for you quick off the air. But wrapping up our interview segment, how can people follow you on social media?
Okay, thank you.
When I first approached you to be a guest on my show, what was your first reaction, and how do you feel now?
I'm relieved because I do have, a lot of people approach me, and I mean, like I said, the way you were with me on the phone, and then the more I got to know your mission, I was like, oh, I have to do this, even though I'm incredibly busy. And people want to find me. My Instagram is Elaine Lalaine, ELAINELALAINE, Elaine Lalaine, or CaptivateTheCrowd.com. That is my website, and I have tons of free stuff. My YouTube is Elaine Speaks, ELAINESPEAKS. I have a lot of free stuff on there about video and speaking and warming up and mistakes, and lots of free tips on there. And I am starting a group program soon, so I'll keep you posted. But yeah, thank you so much for having me, and I can't wait to connect more at a later date.
Absolutely. Stay tuned for Off the Air. I do have a couple questions. But wrapping up, it was a real honor and privilege, and I'm looking forward to part 2 down the road.
Okay. Thanks, Keith. Thank you.